Okay, so maybe you're thinking about trying out some personal finance apps, right? Makes sense to me. But I get it. There are a ton of them out there. It's easy to get lost.
It really is. They all sound like the perfect solution. But which one is right for you?
Well, lucky for you, we did a deep dive on a podcast episode all about this. They found some awesome apps for managing money. So we're here to break it all down, look at what makes them special, who they're good for, all that.
We really want you to walk away feeling confident, ready to choose the app that truly fits your financial goals.
So where do we usually start with this stuff? Budgeting, right? The B word. And guess what? There's an app for that. Actually, a couple of apps really stood out in this podcast, Mint and YNA.
Both are great, but Mint is often the go-to for beginners, people just starting to budget.
Yeah, I can see why. The podcast hosts were raving about how Mint connects all your accounts in one place. You get this clear picture of where your money actually goes, no more mystery deductions.
That's Mint's strength, that visual representation. Imagine seeing all your coffee purchases over a month. It makes you think twice. That awareness is key.
Totally. Now, YNAB, which, by the way, stands for You Need a Budget, that one's for leveling up your budgeting game. They said it's a little more hands-on, but it can help you break free from living paycheck to paycheck.
And the podcast actually gave a cool example. YNAB has this thing called Rule 4, where you allocate money to cover last month's expenses. Being proactive like that can really change the game.
It's like planning ahead, but for money you already spent.
Love that. Okay, so budgeting's covered, but then there's saving, another big one.
Yeah, that's a struggle for a lot of people, but again, there's tech for that. Have you heard of Digit?
Oh, yeah. They couldn't stop talking about this one. Digit analyzes your spending and then sneaks small amounts into savings automatically.
It's kind of amazing. They're all about automation, which is really effective. The podcast host talked about how we often think we're better at saving than we are. Digit takes the willpower out of it, like a secret weapon for your savings. Okay, but budgeting and saving are just the first steps, right? What about investing? That's when things get interesting.
More rewarding, potentially, but definitely more complex, which is why it's great there are apps trying to make investing less intimidating. The podcast talked about Robinhood and Acorns.
Robinhood seems really popular, especially for new investors. They make it easy to start small. You don't need a ton of money up front.
Robinhood's known for being user-friendly. They've got educational resources, which is great for beginners. But, and the podcast hosts really stress this, even though it's simple, investing always has risks.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. And speaking of which, that's where Acorns comes in. It's all about microinvesting.
They take investing your spare change, literally, round up your purchases to the nearest dollar, that difference gets invested automatically.
The podcast host pointed out that Acorns uses that spare change to build you a diversified portfolio. Basically, it's spreading your money across different assets to reduce risk.
It's a great way to get your feet wet with investing without making big decisions right away. It's about building that habit, no matter how small the amount.
So we've got budgeting down, effortless saving, and now we're dipping our toes into investing. But what about the bigger picture? How do we tie it all together?
That's where a financial planning app comes in, right? The podcast really liked this one called Personal Capital. They were saying it's like having a personal CFO in your pocket.
Wow, that's a bold claim. What makes personal capital so different from the others?
Well, it's not just about one thing, like budgeting or whatever. Personal Capital looks at the whole picture. Tracks your net worth, investments, retirement planning, everything. It's about having an overall strategy.
So it's more for people who are thinking long-term, big picture stuff.
Exactly. It's about making sure your money decisions match your life goals. But, and this is important, the podcast made it clear, apps aren't magic, right? They can't do everything for you.
So just having the app isn't enough.
Nope. You still have to put in the work, the effort, be consistent. It's like having a workout app. Downloading it and watching videos is one thing. Getting results means actually doing the workouts.
So true. No shortcuts, even with fancy apps. They also mention that sometimes these apps, even though they're supposed to make things easier, can actually make us more stressed. What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. It's like information overload.
Yeah.
You've got all these charts, graphs, numbers. It's too much sometimes.
I've definitely been there. 1 minute you're feeling empowered, the next you're drowning in data. The podcast had some good advice for that, though. Finding an app that matches how you learn, your comfort level, that's key.
Absolutely. If an app is stressing you out more than helping, it's probably not the right one. Sometimes simpler is better. Master the basics before you go crazy with features you don't even need.
Finding the right tool for the job, like anything else in life, right? Speaking of which, they also talked about financial literacy. Even with these apps, you still got to know what you're doing.
Definitely. Having info is great, but knowing how to use it, that's the key. Like, you can have a top-of-the-line camera, but if you don't understand the settings, you won't get the best photos.
I like that analogy. So, how can people improve their financial literacy? Any tips from the podcast?
They had a few. Start with the basics like budgeting, saving, investing. There are tons of books, podcasts, online courses, all sorts of stuff out there.
It's like learning a new language. The more fluent you are, the easier it is to navigate the financial world.
Exactly. They also suggested getting advice from people you trust, financial advisors, things like that.
Makes sense. So it's not just about using apps blindly, but educating yourself, seeking guidance when you need it. It's a combo.
For sure. Technology plus knowledge, that's the sweet spot for good decision making.
So we've covered finding the right app, avoiding info overload, financial literacy. Anything else we should keep in mind as we try to take control of our finances?
You know, the podcast said something really important. There's no one right way to do this stuff. Every financial journey is unique.
Right, like we can't all follow the exact same playbook and expect the same results.
Exactly. The podcast host said it really well. Your financial goals should reflect your values. What's important to you.
Yeah, like what are you working towards? Dream vacation, paying off debt, early retirement. Our values should be the driving force behind our financial decisions, for sure.
And once you know what you want, those apps can help you get there. But you got to be proactive, you know? Just downloading an app and hoping for the best, that's not enough.
Totally agree. We have to actually engage with these tools, make smart choices, and adjust as we go. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
A journey, for sure. And like any journey, there will be bumps in the road, right? Unexpected stuff, maybe you feel like giving up. But that's when it's important to remember why you started in the first place.
To take control of your finances, build the life you want. You know, after really diving into this podcast with you, I feel like I have a much better grasp on how to actually use these apps, what to look for.
Me too. And remember, knowledge is power, right? The more you learn about personal finance, the better decisions you can make for yourself.
It doesn't have to be overwhelming either. Start small, figure out what works for you, and go from there. The most important thing is just taking that first step.
Exactly. And hey, you don't have to do it alone. There are financial advisors, online communities, tons of resources out there to help you along the way.
So basically, managing your money doesn't have to be this big mystery or a chore. You just need the right tools, the right knowledge, and a little bit of effort, and you can achieve your goals, build a better financial future for yourself.
Absolutely. So go out there, embrace the world of personal finance, and start building the financial future you deserve.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And there you have it. We hope this deep dive has given you some great insights, some practical tips for making smarter money decisions.
Remember, you hold the power to shape your own financial future.
Happy budgeting, saving, and investing, everyone.